You have any thoughts on what you want to share?
We could just act like we're in the sauna. Would your audience be interested in around building teams, like
Yes.
building salespeople,
Building,
hiring a
yes,
salesperson, and that
yes.
type of? Okay,
Then how do you feel the topic is the beingness behind sales?
but
But not like in tactics, marketing, strategies. I'm talking more about, like you said it perfectly. Your love and curiosity. You said it perfectly.
yeah,
The way you ask questions, you inquire, you get into their world. I
yes,
feel like those are tactics, but I don't consider those tactics. I consider those ways of being.
yeah.
Are you okay with maybe that being the topic?
Yes. The mindset you sort of
Okay,
have to
perfect.
have, the beingness of sales.
You like it, huh?
Bro? That's some deep stuff, man.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. So emotional intelligence, there's the quadrant where it's like the self and then the outside. Self-perception, or the way you see yourself, and then self-management. What you see versus what you do. You talk about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also social awareness and relationship management. Also, like how you read other people and how you manage those relationships. And obviously, that's critical for everything. Um, that's the one thing that cannot be improved. So IQ tests can be improved, but emotional intelligence cannot be
Yeah.
improved. You either have it or you don't. Apparently,
That's why I wanted to bring you here, because
If
you
you're-
you clearly seem to know a lot about
if
it.
you're done, you're done. But yeah, reading the room is pretty important,
Mhm.
no?
I think I think you're the one who told me this when we were trying to discuss about what topic to do for this. What I liked about what you said was when you were talking about you, and you were talking about your love and curiosity. I'll say it
Mm.
again. You were talking about the way that I liked. I think the part you had said that stood out to me was you said, "I put myself in their shoes, or I put myself in their world."
Natural curiosity. I remember
curiosity.
that's what we were talking about. Where were we? We were
In the sauna.
in the sauna,
Yeah.
as you do.
Yeah, as you do. This is
And
now another type of sauna now. But yeah, but I think the topic that we wanted to do for today was at least, like, what do we call it?
the beingness of sales.
The beingness of sales. I
Who
like
you
it.
have to be good at sales. And obviously, not everyone identifies as a salesperson.
Mhm.
You are not a salesperson, are
I don't,
you?
I don't identify myself as one.
Yeah,
I
but
couldn't even speak it. I see it as service versus sales
it's a term. It's a different term. What do you service? I mean, meaning like you're trying to help others.
without expectation. For me, the way I see sales is I am selling a product or a service, and from that sale, I expect something in return. And what I see it, and the way I view it, and the way what I do, and what I teach other people to see it too, is the way it was taught to me, which is we're serving without expectation. And now, if the person, that means the person who I've served now, so it's not I'm offering a service, I'm just serving them. I'm
Mm.
bringing my best listening. I'm, like you said, having a natural curiosity. I'm creating a space and a container where we can have a beautiful conversation where a breakthrough can take place. If they want more of that, then we need it to take place in a professional type setting. There could be a monetary or a financial or some type of transaction, right? But I think that I'm not going into that first conversation with the mentality of I have this sacred little thing that I can give you later once you've paid. No, you're getting access to it right now. You want more of it? Let's continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Let's do it professionally.
Yes.
Commit to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about leading with value, which obviously is super important. Like you always need to be demonstrating, like bring to life how you are going to support them. So I work in corporate sales. I'm a salesperson basically, and we're always taught to lead with value, give before you ask, and things like this. And then when it comes to the pricing of things, once you're trying to make this into a formal partnership and get us committed, it's like you're not selling, they're buying. And the way that you shift that is by making sure you're understanding what challenges they're facing and what sort of impacts you guys can achieve together.
You know what I love about what you said there? We're not selling,
They're buying. They're
Yeah.
buying. Exactly.
Do you feel like that changes the way now you see the interaction in the first place with the potential person? Because you're also serving them, right? You have a service you can give them, one that they require. You said that you and what your company does, it's the best of what they do. There's no competition.
There's a lot of good value. Like I think, well, there's another topic there of conviction, of like really having 100% in the back of your mind that you know that you can help them, and that's there's no way you can fake that. That's something that you have to be convicted. You cannot fake that. But in terms of whether they actually need it, whether you're a nice to have or whether you're a need to have, it does depend on them. It depends on what they're working on right now. And um, I can feel myself sometimes if I want to sell something to someone where they don't need it, and I'm just starting to pitch to them like what I
Yeah.
can do,
So
it doesn't go
interesting.
anywhere.
Okay, so
Um,
can I ask you a question about that?
yeah.
Do you feel like the person, now I want to know, go back to being, back to you,
Yes.
the person who is selling when you're trying to convince, the beingness that comes out of you is very
Yeah.
different to the one when you know that that you have what they require.
Yes.
Talk about
Yes.
that if you don't mind.
So it's the mindset that I would like to adopt in every single interaction I have with a potential client is that I'm here to be their strategic partner, and there's either a case for them to become a client, or there's a case for them to become a client. I'm here to discover that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not here to alter anything. I'm not here to put words in anybody's mouth. I'm not here to manipulate anyone. I'm just here to help uncover um, what the case is, and how we can help. So that's a big thing. I've actually noticed it's been very interesting seeing what you're doing with your career, what I'm doing with my career. There's a lot of similarities
Mm.
of what we've discovered of how we need to treat our professional relationships. I mean, you're really good at being naturally curious and asking good questions. I assume that's like really important for your client work, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, this is part of the reason why I'm doing this with you too now,
yes.
because I thought there was a very interesting overlap in, because a lot of the people that I'm working now are also coaches who are aiming to build, their thriving coaching practices,
Yes.
and a lot of the work that comes is, we have imposter syndrome. You're asking me what are some of the problems that they're dealing with. Well, I have more that are coming to mind now. Some of them are imposter syndrome. Some of them are of course, self doubt, but I say perfectionism,
Mm,
all these things that, I mean, one, I'm curious to know if you had those when you started in your role, but and if they still come up, especially when you're talking to potentially intimidating prospects, or you may be speaking with potential customers or clients who
yeah.
are part of big companies. But just to answer your question, I feel like you said it yourself, there's such a big overlap. Um, and honestly, please remind me of your question. I just forgot.
No, no, no. That also with your clients that you're also exploring with
Uh
them.
huh.
You start. Oh, I'm sure you start always with questions.
But you see, this is where, sorry for interrupting, because I just remembered now my answer to you. There's no tactic, is what I'm going to tell you. Like, there's no, the way you phrased it felt like you were trying to tell me, like, so is this what you usually do? If
Yeah.
it calls for it, then that would be my real answer, because, like, sometimes it does call for that. But sometimes it calls for, sometimes I've got it, and again, I'm going to say people because I don't see them anymore. I think before I was trying to label people as, he's a prospect, he's a past client, he's a current one. Like, no, now these are all people. I'm going to serve them. Some of them I can serve in a professional setting. Once again, we get to meet once a week. We get to create sacred time where we get to, we have
Mm,
time, we have space, we have the energy created for us to engage in that conversation back and forth. Not in the back of a van or a car or in a cafe where we're going to get distracted, right? That's the difference, right? At the end,
yeah, yeah,
for me, the way I'm showing up for somebody who I can meet in a cafe, and a lot of people who have decided to continue conversations with me have come from interactions in social settings. And it
right.
wasn't like in that social setting. This is the question I have for you now. When you're in a social setting, are you asking yourself, like, are you like really trying? You're just being yourself. You're being who Pedro is.
Yeah, 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 yeah. 100%. I've become even more naturally curious. Also, like as like the sort of the person. Once I realize who's the person I have to be
Mm,
for being a good salesperson, does spill into my normal life, being way more naturally curious, like understanding that there's something to learn from everybody. Um, I'm actually curious to hear from you
mm.
though, from your from the people you speak to who it does call for like actually ongoing relationship, and for the ones that don't, like what do you think are the key differences between
One word:
what?
commitment.
Commitment.
Not in a bad or good way. Just for some people,
Yeah.
they are energetically, I think, unable to commit. Like, it's a lot. And this is another thing I'm learning now, to go back to sales a little bit, if you want to see it from that realm
Yeah.
again. And I like what you said of, I can tell the difference when it becomes Pedro trying to need the client, or when it's Pedro who can give to the client. Like, I really
Yeah.
like that distinction of,
Yes.
the business needs me, and the business, in this case, the other company, the client needs me, I need the client.
Mm,
That shift is cool, what you just showed
it's
me,
a big
because I
one.
think for a lot of coaches, as well as we think, we start seeing that, well, we need to understand that our hey, we, we need to start seeing that our clients, and same for you, are not mediums to pay our bills. They're people that we get to serve and work with and create with. And to answer your question,
Oh my.
you want to, you know what's funny? I was debating whether I should bring Molly into the. There you go.
What is that?
She's giving you a little. He wants you to throw it to her.
I don't want to touch it,
Oh, you
man.
don't touch it.
I'll let him get it. There you go,
Hey. Hello.
bro.
Yeah.
It might be rabid.
Hey. Por favor. They're interrupting. She's like, wait, could come back a little bit more.
Sorry.
She must be like, no, I just interrupted these people's like podcast.
So what did you learn from that, Julian?
What did I learn from that? That
Explore.
and actually and it happens a lot. I know it's happened to you when you're in calls with potential people who you can help and
Mm.
serve, and how like sometimes the call goes. And this is where maybe I want to take another topic. Maybe we can like wrap it up at there because I do have a question about versus sequencing and winging it. But just let's spin that 1 second because I think it goes back to this as well. This moment
Yeah.
reminded me as well of there's a good need to have a type of idea of how you want things to go, and it goes back to what you told me. Do you ask questions first? I think it really varies depending on the person and who you're with.
Definitely.
But ask me again. Ask me what you asked me before the dog came in. You said, "What's the difference between the commitment?" We were talking. Okay.
Yes.
So I think the thing is that it takes a lot of time energetically, and of course, just time hourly.
Yeah.
In that, not everybody has the capability. And now to go back to the distinction of I need the business or the business needs me.
Mm.
For me, what's been cool is that when I see a client and they say the famous words that everybody wants to hear in a sale, yes,
Yeah.
yes, I would love to continue. I'd love to work. I've now challenged that yes. Like, are you sure?
Yeah. Oh.
And now it's like, are you sure? Because like, do you know what it takes? Like,
Yeah.
I need you to show up every week on time.
100%.
I need you to show up every week undistracted, in a room that's quiet. And all these things before, it used to be like I wouldn't even ask them, and then it will create such a disappointment in the relationship. Therefore, what are your thoughts on that?
100%, man. Like it's funny how we're finding a lot of common ground in such different worlds.
Cool.
So with what we offer, which are also similar, we offer services from experts, and it's like you need to put in time. They need to commit to put time in order to extract value from it, because or else they're not. And I've spoken with a lot of CEOs, and you can tell like there's just different types of CEOs. Some who are committed to growing and to really taking things to the next level, and they want to expand and they have aggressive ambition. And then there's some who are just happy with what they have.
Yeah.
They're just okay with where they are. They're okay for things to stay the same, and they don't want to change. So there's not going to be any fruitful relationship there because it's just not who they are. So it's also a lot about picking the right team, both from client facing and also who you work with adjacently. That's a huge deal. But yeah, I mean, do you think it's okay that these CEOs are just okay with not changing anything?
Of course not. Of course not. And I think that's where it goes back. It's like a lot of people think they want help or think they want guidance, but they want the end result of that guidance. They don't want the whole journey that got them to the end result. It's like
They're not willing.
everybody wants the same result, but nobody wants to pay the price that got them there. And it's funny. Again, that's why I think I'm learning so much to like know who it is to say yes to and who it is to challenge the yes to. To go back, but I like what you're saying because I think it shows as well that it's because it's a relationship at the end of the day, and I think you talked before about emotional intelligence and at the end we are human beings. So at the end of the day, even though yes, it's a professional relationship, you're especially in the corporate world where it's profit first.
Yes.
Which is why I'd say maybe is the main distinction here. Of course, I'm also building a business, but it's never the intention. The common question I will get is, but Julian, your thing is not so scalable, is it? Is it? And it's funny because at the beginning, I felt like I had to hide from that question of like, had to make up something up. But like, no, but don't worry, I have products. No, but don't worry, I have a community. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll have a school one day. But like, not from the mentality of like what's scalable. It's from the mentality of I've always wanted to work with people. And if I can get to work with many people at once through a community, great. Not about that. But I think it's, and I don't mean to go to tangent too much, but just from the perspective of what you're sharing, I find that you're building a relationship first. Do you feel like that's a value or a mission that's like repeated to you or ingrained in you in the corporate world, or do you feel like that's something that you need to tap back into continuously to make sure that's what comes out of the forefront?
Yeah, I mean, difficult to say because obviously, yeah, like what the stuff you're talking about, the corporate world is true, and always looking for things that are scalable that can be applied to a wide range of situations in terms of processes, in terms of what the products that we offer and things like this. But what was I thinking about? Yeah, one thing that is really not scalable is those relationships that you have with people. So even in an organization like mine, very very lean in terms of what we have to offer, the amount of sales teams that we have, it's insane. It's basically mostly salespeople in my company. That's because we understand the importance of having relationships, actually people to people relationships.
Hmm.
That's one thing that's not scalable. That's why we need to have thousands of people speaking thousands of different languages. Um,
You prioritize the people to
we,
people relationship,
that's like
the core.
critical. That's critical.
I like that.
That's the only way that we can have good relationships with clients and actually
Mm.
give them services. And yeah, that's one thing we've understood that cannot be scaled.
Yeah, and that's cool
Yeah,
because I think that brings me now to maybe the last part of this conversation that I wanted to maybe touch on the most. And it goes back to, well, I mean, we've been touching on it the whole conversation now,
yeah,
but back to the beingness of it all, who we're being. Right, we're not. I think it's important because people always ask me like, why do you think being is so important?
yeah.
I always say we're human beings, not human doings. I think it's a cliche, but it's also the truth.
Human doings.
Yeah, right. And I think the question I have to you is looking back to what we talked about with sales scripts, sequences. I know
Yeah,
you might have your own scripts and your own sequences to follow, and I think that the distinction that I was introduced to as well from a place of serving people without expectation was that scripting is just words in a sequence. It doesn't necessarily mean reading off a script. I don't know if that's the way you see it too, but for me, because I've seen that when you wing it, you get winged results. But you can, and there's a way to, for me at least, and for other coaches or listening to other people who want to live and build a business or even relationships from a place of service, of it's clear. There's not profit driven only. It's also genuine, right? When it comes to those types of businesses, and I'm distinguishing here with the corporate world,
mm,
I think that there's a way where scripting can still aid you and help you, but from a place of sequencing, of an order, of
yeah,
understanding when is the time for you to, like you said, ask questions. When is the time for you to just create space? But
yes.
what are your thoughts on that?
I think you're getting into some really important territory here, Julian. Um, Scripting, yeah, scripting is important. And I definitely have something to say about like why do you think it's important?
Like I told you, I think just mainly from the perspective of winging it, you get winging results.
Yes, yeah, and the flip side of that is being programmatic
Mm.
and understanding what works, what doesn't work. There's some certain areas where it's information you need to convey, and there's the best way to do it, and you want to be as efficient as possible, and there's no reason that you should be winging it. So, in so many areas, so many aspects of your life, being programmatic, being a master of execution by understanding what the best practices are is critical. Um, for example, for me, when I'm speaking to a client, I know that there's a general introduction, how I introduce our services, how I introduce what we're doing in the call. Like all of these, there's no reason that I should be thinking at the top of, I should be improvising or adding some cool keywords. Um, no, I'm speaking with people who are very busy, and I have a duty to use that time as efficiently
Mm.
as possible. I need to
I
I
like
need
that.
to use my scripts there.
So what do
Uh,
you think that mindset translates to who you are being in that moment? Are you, because before you're telling me, the distinction you shared with me is I'm going to go from being of neediness to being of service. That was the distinction we
yeah,
came up with, right? What's the distinction in this moment
I think maybe the distinction.
between like being X, being Y?
Yeah, I mean maybe it's from being a conversationalist to being someone who's not here to waste any time, who's here to make the most out of the limited time that you have with these people. These people, man, they get bombarded, right, left, right, and center. I mean, I assume also with the people you work with, like everyone's trying to
They're on
sell
their
to you
guard.
24/7. Like, you need to, in order to be someone who's worth speaking to. There's a lot of things you have to do, and one of the things is make respect their time.
And that's
Um,
goes, but again, you said a lot of things you have to do.
yeah,
I would challenge you, and that is maybe it's who you need to be.
yeah. You need to be someone who's and yeah, this is also another point. I speak again. I've spoken with a couple of CEOs, and at some point you can start dishing out like who's being more serious and who is being a bit of a time waster, and someone who is understands like the topics that are most important and who can say things in the least amount of words as possible, versus someone who's using filler words, says a lot without saying much. The inflationary. What were you talking about?
Inflationary vocabulary. Yeah.
Inflationary vocabulary. Who do you have to be? I'll switch it to you because you might know about this more. Who do you have to be, or what's the reasoning behind inflationary vocabulary or not using inflationary vocabulary?
It goes back to, I say, committed.
Committed.
As in you, because committed is you say one thing, you do another, and that goes back even to what we talked about before. And I think this is a beautiful, actually, beautiful bring back, if you want to call it anything. But as in, I like how you brought it back because I told you that even with clients, what separates those who want to continue and those who don't, commitment. Same thing here. What separates people who are serious and who are not? You say you're weeding out or wheezing out. What's the word you use?
Dishing out.
Dishing out.
I don't know if that's
Yeah,
the way to say
dishing
it.
out those that really are committed and those are not. It goes back to inflationary vocabulary. When you're a person of commitment, that means you have self-trust. That means that when you say X, you do X. And your brain, I think neurologically speaking, when your brain sees that Pedro has said X and Pedro has done X, and it repeats in every mini action throughout the entire days and days upon days, you've basically rewritten the neurological understanding of your brain that now when Pedro says X, your brain is going to be like, of course Pedro's going to do X because he's done every other X he said before. Therefore, what is the conclusion here? You can literally create your future by speaking it.
Yeah.
Really think about it that way. So in that moment, you're saying, I'm going to be a masterful salesman, or I'm going to be an incredible conversationalist. In that moment, your brain is going to go fully focused on that. Your brain is going to catch that because you've decided that's who you are. And at the end of the day, when people ask me, why do you talk so much about being? Is because the only thing we can change is who we are.
Yeah.
We're not fixed. You know Alan Watts?
No.
He has a quote.
Pull it up, Jamie.
He has a quote that I love. You know what he says?
What?
He says, you are under no obligation to be the person you were 5 minutes ago.
There you have it.
Being is not fixed.
Not fixed.
So, I'm gonna ask you one more question before we wrap this up.
Please tell me.
Who would you like to tap more into? When I say, again, this is more being. Do you want to be more assertive, more committed, more decisive in yourself? I don't know. I don't want to prime you. Yeah, who would you like to tap? What being would you like to tap more into as you enter this next season of your? I mean, you're the top performer,
Yes.
as you said, at your company, so you're killing it in the sales game. So
Yes.
what do you feel is not from a place of lack, but where do you feel like you want to? Because being a mountain that has no summit, my man, you can keep on climbing. So what do you want to take it next? What being do you want to embody?
Yes. Well, I've noticed one thing I've noticed is that amongst the top performers in my team, there's a lot of different ways to get there. There's a lot of different tactics, a lot of different types of people who can get to being incredibly successful. And I think the one commonality that they have all had is execution. So I would like to continue being a master at execution. Executioner?
I love it.
Executive?
Being of execution.
Yeah. Just
I love it.
being someone who is pragmatic, who always understands really what is the most important thing, what is mission critical, and dealing with the topics that are most important to people, and being the one who's focused on finding solutions for that.
I love it.
Being a master at execution is also like the rate at which you can get things done. So yes, speed times quality in the work that you do.
Volume.
And
You were talking about volume.
Yeah, volume. I mean, I'm sure you know about that, right?
But I mean, you know what I like about it? Because I think as much as we talk about being, overdoing, or like that being first, doing second, we still gotta do.
Yes.
What's the biggest predictor of an outcome?
Volume?
Action, yeah.
Action.
Right? And at the end of the day, that's why I like your answer, because at the end, but notice how, in order to take more action, you got to decide who you want to be, right? Do I be decisive or do I be a perfectionist? Right? That's, again, it's a way of being.
There's one thing. So sometimes, you talk a lot about journaling. Like you write down who you want to be, the goals you want to achieve, the things that you need to become. But sometimes that alone makes you feel good. And I've heard people call that mental masturbation. So how do you then go from understanding where you want to go, who you want to be, to then actually taking the steps to start transforming? Because personality, who you are, is sticky. It is sticky.
It is sticky.
It's changeable, 100%, but it's not easy.
Not easy, but it also I goes back to even what you just said right now. If you're declaring yourself to be an executor, right, someone who takes action, then part of your doing is going to come from that. Like everything flows downstream from that place that you decided that you chose to be. So I think when you're telling me, for me, and again, I want to share my experience, not my opinion. In my experience, and I've seen this even with the people that I work with, when you continually, this is where repetition is your best friend. When you continually declare, declare who it is you want to be, present and future. Nothing based on the past. It's a future to dive towards. It drives your daily actions. Like the opportunities when it comes to decide to take action, you remember I declared this very morning that I was an executionist or that I was an executor. So if I declared that I'm an executor and the opportunity presents itself where I have the choice, and of course nobody sees it, but your brain is in that moment deciding, do I go back to sit on the couch and scroll, or do I go back and do something powerful? Do I keep
Mm,
journaling and mentally masturbating, or do I go and take action? In
yeah.
that moment, you make the choice, and because your brain has now been declared over and over, you've been declaring it day after day. I am an executor. I am being that I take action. I am being that I take action. I am being that I take action. The time when it comes to whether to take action or not, your mind is going to lean more towards remembering, ooh, I just said I was going to take action. Now, commitment. Do I want to be a man of my word or do I want to have inflationary vocabulary?
Mm.
So, but again, it goes back to who you are being. It all goes back to that. I think again, it's a very vague answer, but
You need
it's too
proof as well,
much.
no? Sometimes you need proof as well, no?
What do you mean by that?
Like you just keep telling that to yourself. How do I know I'm an executor?
But you said this before about
Yeah.
yourself. In the new season you're stepping into, you're going to step into someone who chooses every day volume over quality, who chooses the 20, 80% versus getting 100%. You
Yes.
know, you see everything as a step, not as failure, right? You're seeing it as a step forward. It doesn't matter the step if it's good or bad, it serves you. Is that what you meant when you said you're stepping into that power of action?
Wow. Yeah. What are you trying to be?
I just want to be more of service, man. I'm playing this game with one of the people I work with the clients that I work with. We're playing this service game of literally serving without expectation, where even people who've decided we don't even want to work with continuously, let's even serve those and let's see what we can serve. There's always a way to serve a person even if they don't pay you a penny. So anyway, that could be maybe a future topic to go deeper in, but that's what I'm diving deeper in is who I'm being in regards to service. Yeah, man, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing your pearls of wisdom regarding sales, and maybe we should have you back for round two, going deeper into once you've become even more of an executor, who you want to become next.
I would love it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my
What
friend.
an honor.
Appreciate it.